You can see that, can you?
Yeah, I can see that. That's great. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so first of all, thanks everybody for tuning in. I know it's busy, and I do appreciate the time that you're taking to listen to us today. So basically, I work with trades, all kinds of builders, plumbers, earth movers, landscapers, people like that. My experience in relation to that was initially my first job was on a construction site, civil construction with a large multinational company, and then I eventually married a builder. So I naturally stepped into helping him out with all his stuff. So that wasn't just safety, that was everything else. So I know all the things that are going on for builders. I know how hard it is. And the thing that always comes across to me is tradies just want to do their job. They often find that safety is a waste of time. It's a butt-covering exercise. You know, it's paperwork we don't really want to do. Unfortunately, that's just not the right attitude. Everybody needs to really be on top of their safety. It's good for business, basically. If you have someone who gets hurt and there's time off work, then you're losing money in your business. You don't have those skills, you've got to try and get somebody else. And then there's all the dramas of if it's something serious, you don't have anything to prove that you are working safely. Safe work will come in and they will really give you a hard time. So by being proactive as opposed to reactive, because Glenn did actually mention being reactive in his side of his discussion, we need to put things in place that will help you out with that kind of thing. So just to start with, if you just have a look at our slide here, so this represents serious claims for tradies from the period between 2010 and 15. Now I know that's not the latest data, they only do these every 4 years, so next year the latest lot will be out, but it still is actually indicative of what is going on. So just to go through that, there are 190 serious claims each day. This is Australia-wide. So a serious claim is something which is an absence of 1 or more working weeks. Fatalities don't come into this, that's a completely different area. So that's things like your traumatic joint injuries, so that's your carpal tunnel, bursitis, those kinds of things, knees, wrists, shoulders, elbows. Then your wounds and lacerations, well that's self-explanatory. Musculoskeletal is quite similar to your traumatic joint injuries. Fractures, again, self-explanatory. And overall, tradies have 3 times more serious incidents than any other industry. And tradies are actually 30% of our workforce, but represent 58% of serious claims. So that's the proof that as much as we want to be safe, we think we're safe, there's a lot out there that really indicates that we aren't. And it's not actually that hard to get yourself in line and be safe. So just moving on. Okay, so key thing that you need to do is have a safety induction. Now I see people who say, yes, we do that, but they don't document it. And oftentimes they don't do it before they start work, which is really silly. Because basically what you're doing is you're showing these people how you expect them to work according to what you have in place. So you're telling them all about things like your work health and safety policy, what's got to go on with drugs and alcohol at work, are you allowed to smoke, depending on where you're going, you know, there might be worker fatigue, you might have to drive long distances between your jobs. They need to know who your designated first aider is, where the first aid kits, and if something goes wrong after you've contacted your first aider and so on, who else do you tell about it so that it gets documented and everybody gets looked after. Another important thing is actually how to report something that goes on, and even near misses. A lot of tradies go, well, it's okay, you know, it's happened before, it's all right. But what happens if you can record your near misses is that there might be a picture being built up. So a different number of people might be having a similar kind of incident, which might point to there's something faulty with an item of plant, or nobody is actually using the guarding on a plant, or it could even be training. So I know it's extra paperwork, but it is necessary, and it will show you what is actually going on, and that way you can be proactive instead of reactive. So you need to take them through how to use the tools and equipment to do their work. Again, a lot of times people are tradespeople. We've done this all before. We know how to use our tools, but you still need to go through it and how it relates to your particular work or a particular job that you're doing, and doing tasks safely. So that could include, you've got a mob of bricklayers there, and you've got your labourer who's wheeling around his wheelbarrow, how he's got to stay out of the way of any trenches and things like that, safe lifting, those kinds of things. It sounds very mundane, and it is, but it's quite necessary. Another one that Safe Work have really been picking up on lately is the emergency preparation. So that's if you have to evacuate, who do you alert, who controls is really, really important, because you can't rely that the leading hand will be there on that particular day and who's going to call, so on. So you really have to be quite rigid in that kind of thing, because depending on your site, it might be a small site, a home site, that's fine. But if it's a major construction site, then it could be a real rabbit warren to get out of. So you really need to know how to evacuate if necessary. So a good idea is to have a copy of any of your forms that you use to report your hazards and incidents, and safety checklists. I've given an example there of a vehicle pre-start. A lot of people think that's just a waste of time, but the way I look at it is that you've driven your vehicle all day and you might take it home, or it's parked up on site. Who knows what could happen? Mechanical failure occurs. Even simple things like your blinker's not working. It's just a quick run around the vehicle. Oh, okay, that's not working, or there's a broken light, or whatever it happens to be. You can quickly fix it rather than actually maybe having an accident. So you've got to give them specific information relating to hazards that they'll come across. So chemicals, high risk work. So you're in a high risk work environment. Construction is that way, and it doesn't matter whether it's a residential building or it's on the bigger construction sites. Huge one is working around mobile plant and working safely at height, which is another thing that Safe Work are actually targeting at the moment as well. So the good old Safe Work method statements, SWIMs. Now, they've been known as JSAs, job safety analysis, and you get them with environmental parts as well. I don't do environmental, I'm strictly on the safety side of things. So a Safe Work method statement is basically designed to give you the information how to work safely on specific tasks, whether you're using plant, equipment, chemicals, etc. And it actually doesn't need to be very complicated, it needs to be simple. So the thing about it is your workers and your subcontractors have to go through this. So each new worker needs to be taken through this. It'll be part of your induction process, and then subcontractors as well, so that they know they are expected to work on your site with your people in the way that you deem safe. So a lot of people don't realise that there's some basic things you must have on your SWIMs. So obviously your business name, ABN, that's really important. Your personal protective equipment, how to do the job steps and how to do them safely. And then another really important part is your sign-off section, where everybody acknowledges they've been instructed in and they understand how to do the work that's outlined in the SWIM. In the event that something goes wrong and heaven forbid Safe Work has to come out, they want proof that you have done everything possible to keep your people safe. So having your people sign off on the SWIMs, if they say, oh, we didn't know, well, no, that's not the case. He signed off on it. So you're covering yourself, you're proving that you're actually working safely, and that's really, really important. The consultation. Another thing is that you must communicate with your workers what's going on in regards to safety. So Most tradies do toolbox talks. Some tradies will do one every morning. It might only be 5 minutes. Others do it on a less regular basis and take a little longer. The most effective way is to do it on a regular basis and schedule it. Say every 2 weeks we're going to have half an hour on a Friday morning and we're going to discuss it. However it works best for you. Keep them short and simple. If you rabbit on for a bit of time, everybody loses interest and you may as well be talking to the wall. It's just not going to sink in. And a good thing is if you've got a particular issue, so a new item of plant that you're introducing, it may be replacing an older item, whatever it happens to be. So you just go through and say, all right, this is what we've got, or this is how it works, this is how we need to be safe with it. And always give your workers an opportunity to raise issues. Sometimes you'll find that people don't want to speak up in front of a crowd, but that's okay. Always reiterate that they can come and speak to you, you know, at another time when there's no one around, where it's a little more private. And always keep a record of your talks, who attended, when it occurred and what was discussed. Now I know through the experience of my clients, a lot of them say, oh no, that's just more paperwork. Every tradie that I know, regardless, has a diary. It takes a few minutes just to write in toolbox talk about the new crane, and Fred, Joe, John, Jane turned up, and just a little bit about, you know, if there are issues raised and things like that. That's as simple as it needs to be. Your diary can actually be used in a court of law to defend yourself. So that's another way of backing up that you are doing things safely. So risk assessment and risk management. It sounds complicated, but it really isn't, and it's very, very important. So risk assessment is a preventative measure. So you're looking at what you do, what the risks are, and then putting steps in place to reduce the risk of injury to your workers and your subcontractors. Now you'll notice that I'm talking a lot about workers and subcontractors. Subcontractors under the law are classed as your workers. So you have exactly the same responsibility towards their safety as you do for anybody else. That includes visitors that come to your site. If the safe work guy comes, you've got responsibility for his safety as well. But hopefully he'll actually know that he'll be safe, as much as you might like to do something to him. Risk assessment, it needs to be done before you start working on a project and then periodically throughout the job. So we know on, for example, house construction, you're doing your earthworks. So you've got to look at, for example, what earth moving equipment is around. Are they going to be leaving trenches? What's the interaction between people and machinery? Then once you've done that, you've got your slab gets laid, and that's generally, that's another section you need to look at. And then as the frames go up, so on and so forth. So every little part of the job is different and has its own little safety issues. So you need to really think about in a holistic way, but then divide it up and risk assess what's going on. So basically to do it, you just need to see look at what your project involves, and always include your workers, because your workers know what they're doing. So they're the ones who can say, well, it's not actually that risky if we do this, or you may have actually not considered something. So they can help you out. And it's another way of consulting with them so that they know what's going on. And you document it. So what's the task, who's doing it, what equipment is being used, and what can potentially happen. So then you decide how to prevent or reduce the risk from affecting your workers and subbies, and then you put procedures in place to reduce it. So those procedures put in place, that is actually the risk management side of it. And you need to review regularly, and if you've got new plant or processes, that's the story. So again, you need to document this, but when you've documented it and you have reviewed it, then you need to note that fact. And generally what you do is you do that on your actual risk assessment form. And if something out of the usual comes up that you're doing that maybe you've never done before, same deal. You need to risk assess that.
Just 5 more minutes there.
Cool. Yeah.
So
yep.
this is your last slide, is it?
This is my last slide. So
Yeah, good, because I've got some questions for you. It's
okay,
very
awesome.
interesting.
All right then. So as you can see, I've really given you a very brief outline. There's a lot more to it, but I didn't want to bore you with the details. Very happy for you to give me a call, send me an email, and have a look at my website. And yeah, so if anybody's getting questions, please do ask. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, good. It's I guess I asked you to really distill down the essence of what our clients need to focus on. So I've got induction, swims, consultation, and risk assessment. I'm just a little bit confused. I'm getting consultation is recorded in your diary. How's risk assessment? Like, is that also just something that's diarised, and is consultation and risk assessment sort of happening at the same time?
No. So your consultation is a separate issue, and the suggestion of putting it in your diary, that's just an easy way to deal with it. Your risk assessment needs to be on specific forms, and they have a certain format. So you just put down what's going on and then decide how dangerous it is.
So what's the frequency of that through the job?
The risk assessment?
Yeah, like what?
Yeah. So initially at the start, and then as the project as a whole. So it's looking at, we're going to do this, 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 and this, and then as the job progresses, because the site will change all the time.
Yeah, so I suppose every time there's a significant change in the type of work being done, then there's a new risk assessment.
That's right. You don't have to do it every day. That's just ridiculous. And another mistake that people often make is with the safe work method statements, we have to do one every single day of the job. No. And you don't have to do it for every single job. If your job is basically the same, you don't have to do that. You just review them on a periodic basis.
Yeah, yeah. And the induction's got to have its own dedicated form too, or you're diarising induction?
Yeah. You need the dedicated forms to do that. And basically the ones that I have are a tick list, and then you go through the actual policies and procedures of your business, and they will be a little different for every business.
Yeah, okay. All right, good, fascinating. Thank you. Look, I certainly learned something, and I've been in this industry for a long time, and as I'm sure everyone else has. So thanks so much.
You're welcome.
I'll just come back to just a tiny little wrap up, guys. Look, I suppose in conclusion, when we're talking about anything from WHS to business development, business coaching, your results are always a lagging indicator of your habits. And I'm hoping that maybe if you've got bad results, then you might look at your habits. And really that's all Susan and I are trying to encourage you to do today is look at your habits and improve them around your business, around how that's managed, including safety. Look, I'd encourage you to, while you're in this space of thinking about your business, think, where am I going to be 5 years from now? Is it going to be very different from where I am today? Because unless you change those habits, unless you change the way you're approaching your business, really probably things aren't going to be much different in 5 years' time. But 5 years comes around quite quickly, and yet it's plenty of time to make significant changes to your business and be significantly more profitable. I've seen business owners go from 0 to hero in much less time. And so I'd encourage you, if you're thinking about this, start of a new year, then now's a great time. Don't be this guy. Get your head out of that sand. Connect. I'm obviously a business coach, and I help clients that want to see quick and great improvement in their business. Encourage you to just book a 30-minute session with me. We have a one-on-one conversation, no obligation, no charge, but we can have a look at what I do, where your business is at, and how we can help you. Thank you for your attendance this afternoon, everyone. Have a great evening, and bye for now.